I saved this 440 for my dad's barn that was about to collapse. Unfortunately, it did take on rainwater and it is stuck. I'm gonna do everything I can to get it unstuck and use it for a $1,000 short block build.
All right, so the 440's been soaking for 2 days now. So let's see if we can get it to turn. I have a feeling we're gonna have to get aggressive with this thing to get it to break free, but we'll see. Oh, it moved. Dude, this is awesome. All right, so it's not going through full rotation. Let's get these cylinders cleaned up as much as possible. Then I'll wire wheel it, then I'll rotate it and wire wheel it, rotate it, and then see what we got. Okay, this one's got a lot of carbon and crap on top of the cylinder. I need to clean that up. Man, these cylinders look so bad, when I was at my dad's barn. I gotta clean all this up too. See those nicks from the valves. I mean, we definitely have a ridge, so this motor's got some miles on it, but there's a lot of carbon in here. I want to get that carbon cleaned off. Oh, fuck. Ah, shit. Look at that. That's not good. That's pretty freaking deep. I'm guessing water got into this engine a long time ago to cause that kind of rust, that deep. Kind of looks like it was, in the original casting or something. God, that's so bad. It's so deep. I don't know. This might be so deep that the block's ruined. You know what I mean? That just feels like. Usually the max you can go overbore is 60 thousandths. I don't know, I'll have to somehow measure the depth on that. That's a bummer. So we still got a stuck spot, so we still got to keep going. So now I'm going to switch to Marvel Mystery Oil and pour a little bit around each cylinder, let it soak. Tomorrow we'll come out here, flip the engine over to the other side, and put some Marvel Mystery Oil on that side to soak, see if we can get this thing to break free. I'm really bummed out about this pit that's in here because it's so freaking deep. But I feel like I want to run it anyways. So anyway, let's get some oil in here and start soaking, and then I'm gonna try to get a close-up of that and see if I can get some opinions from you guys. Not saying that I'm gonna listen to you. You tell me there's no way that engine's gonna run and survive with that pit in there. I'm probably still gonna do it. I've convinced myself to run it anyways. Okay, Marvel Mystery Oil soaking. And this is what I wanted to show you. That is a pretty big pit. To be honest with you, I don't know if that's rust. I just don't, it doesn't, I don't know, man. It doesn't look like rust to me. It looks like that was in the casting, like a casting cavity or something like that. It really does look like it was just a bubble in the casting or something. It just looks like it didn't clean up when they honed the cylinder. When they bored this cylinder, there was just some casting in here and they sent it anyway. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen something like that? What is your opinion? Because I really think that this engine has always been like this. This just doesn't have a rust look to it. You look inside there, it just has like that look like it was cast that way. This doesn't look like rust pitting to me. Which, you can see the ridge here. It's got quite a bit of ridge. So this thing's got some miles on it. This thing went a lot of miles running like that and didn't have any issues apparently. I'm also curious, I don't know if you can see that. See that D? There's a D stamped in that one. I've never really seen that before. That's an E or an F. Come over here. There's a D on that one. A C on that one. A B. And a B. I don't know what's up with those stampings. Maybe this engine's been opened up before. Here's another thing. The pan. It's got a 699 pan, but I don't see a lick of paint on this pan. It's almost like, you know, it went in for some work and they swapped pans. It's kind of interesting. Maybe something detrimental happened and they had to pull the pistons and rods, the crank, everything, you know. I don't know. It's a mystery. Anyway, I'm not even sure I'm calling this right. Like, if you call it core shift or, you know, some kind of casting defect, casting void, casting bubble, whatever. Or, you know, do you guys agree with me? Do you think that's it? I wish I can blow this up more, but let's see. Kind of hard to hold it steady. It just doesn't look like rust to me. This looks like casting. Anyway, and what are your thoughts? You think it's safe to run? Honestly, I think it's safe to run as a low compression engine. I mean, if we were gonna make this a high performance build, I would try to punch it out to 30 first. And if that didn't clean it up, which it probably won't, because that looks pretty deep, then I would go ahead and have that cylinder sleeve, so we can save the block and get some use out of it, better than throwing it away, right? And honestly, I think it's always been like that. I think that's always been there, and it's been running, you know? I don't know, there's some clues that maybe something detrimental happened at some point, but that doesn't look like damage, like from a strike, like say valve, you know, getting dropped in there and smacking around inside the cylinder. It doesn't have that kind of look to it. It looks casting, you know, it's kind of rough. And it doesn't have a rust look to it, because usually when rust starts on metal, it kind of has more of a pitting look, and this doesn't look like a pit, like a rust pit. It looks like a casting pit. I think it's gonna run, and I think I'm gonna send it. I think it's gonna be just fine. I think it's ran. I mean, there's definitely some clues. Something went bad on this engine at some point, because that pan not being painted tells me the pan came off of this thing, got changed. Maybe rod let go and it knocked the pan out of it too. You know, that's why they replaced it and didn't bother painting it. The valve marks on the pistons, they're on all 8. So that happened long after whatever happened with the pistons, the pan, and throwing a rod or whatever. I'm definitely gonna change the timing chain. You're down to an engine this far, you should always change it and get a fresh start. It's so easy to change on these engines when the engine is out of the car. Yeah, and I almost screwed up when I was turning this thing sideways. Those lifters could have fell out. They have a lot of carbon buildup on the bottom, so I think that keeps them a little snug. See, so they're not falling out. So it's sort of a saving grace. In fact, what I should do is, since we're sitting here, I might as well put Marvel Mystery Oil down here too. In fact, by this year, they were putting nylon inserted timing gears. So the upper gear was mostly metal, but it had like a nylon, molded in nylon cap to it for teeth. And the teeth, you know, the reason they did that was to make it run quieter, but they didn't last. You know, they didn't last like a all metal timing set. So, and especially when you get into like 20, 30, 40 years later, they really don't last. I pulled some out that were mostly falling apart. They do have teeth underneath the nylon teeth, so usually it doesn't completely go off the rails, but comes pretty close, and it's probably what happened here. Probably had a nylon set, fell apart, valves kissed the pistons, and that was it. That timing set's been changed before, so maybe those dings happened before this timing change. I'm still changing the timing chain, but it may not be as bad as I thought. All right, so this thing sat overnight. It has Marvel mystery oil soaking into the cylinders on the passenger side. Still stopping. There was a thick layer of carbon on each one of these pistons, so when I hit it with the wire wheel, you know, it broke up a lot of stuff. I think this is just falling in between the cylinder and the piston. The rings are keeping it from going to the bottom of the engine. Something I should point out is when you clean this with a wire wheel, like, I think it's the best approach to get the carbon cleaned off of here. But let me just warn you, I mean, those little wires on the wire wheel fly off everywhere. So it's a good idea to stay away from the top of the engine, cover it if you can, and then just be vigilant and just watch. And whenever you see one of those little wires somewhere, just grab it and take it out, you know. Definitely don't want that in your cylinders when you go to fire this thing, or anywhere in here, you know. Okay, so what I was just talking about, see right there? That's one of those wires. I mean, if you have a better way, see that little wire? That's one of the wires from the wire wheel. So you gotta be super careful you get all that crap out of the engine. I don't know if there might be something better that doesn't throw. And you guys have been pretty good for tips. If you guys know of anything better than a wire wheel, definitely let me know, because I still feel comfortable using this around the outside of the engine. Even in here, I feel comfortable with it because I don't think a bristle is going to get down in between the piston and the wall. I suppose it's possible, but keep that in mind. I mean, that's something like, I don't even feel comfortable giving you the suggestion to use a wire wheel to clean an engine like this, but you saw the level of carbon that was on here, and I've done it before, so I'm pretty comfortable it's going to be okay. But you know, we're definitely going to go through the engine and make sure everything is super clean before we fire this thing off. Okay, and so here's the other thing I wanted to show you. So in terms of this pit, you see the pit there. Again, I think it's like a casting void. So there it is again, right? And I wanted to show you an example out here on the outside of the block. So when they cast these things, you know, they're using sand, they get core shift. The thing can move around on you and stuff. You get pits and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's a good example. I guess it kind of is. But you see that right there? Like that's something in the casting, you know. And I think when they cast these things, obviously the cylinders are just as rough as the outside of the casting, and then they go through and they bore them out, get them all nice and smooth. But if you have a cavity on the surface like this, you know, kind of like these guys. So let me show you rust pitting right here. I think this is a good example. So obviously this doesn't have a ring going past it, keeping it smooth, so it's a little rough here. But you could kind of see the pitting. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's not much difference between this and that cavity, you know, like say something like that. Could be rust related, but I don't think it is. It just doesn't have that look. Here's another thing. When the engine was sitting there in the barn, it was sitting pretty much flat and level, you know, kind of like that. Now it might have been tilted one way or the other just a little bit, but if it was, which I think it wasn't tilted forward and back, right? It was pretty flat this way. It might be tilted this way to this way. So if it was, we would see rust and pitting on this side of the cylinders. This one is at this angle. It's right here. So just to kind of give you an idea, this engine would have had to have been tilted that way for the water to run down to this side of the cylinder in order for that to rust. So I don't think it's rust. It's not pitting from rust. That's part of casting, and it's always been there. And I don't think it really hurt anything. Whoever ran this car ran the shit out of it, you know. The light is just right to see the numbers here. So we got J440, X Maltese Cross, 216 E2. And again, the Maltese Cross means it's 10 under main bearings. Hopefully this is the side that's stuck and hopefully breaks free. All right, this is day 3 of soaking. The driver's side has been soaking with some Marble Mist oil. So let's see if we can get it to turn over. Hey! Look at that. All right. We've got full rotation, guys. Got some carbon to clean up. Now that we can get these pistons up to the top, we can clean them a lot easier. Man, that carbon is just on there. Some of these cylinders that came off pretty easy, but these guys are freaking on. You ever hear an engine diesel? They call it engine dieseling. And what it is you go shut the engine off, and then it'll sit there and go click, 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 click. It keeps running. Even though you've turned it off, then it'll finally die. That happens because you get a bunch of this carbon buildup. When the engine's running, that carbon buildup gets like, you know, super hot, kind of like a glow plug in a diesel engine. That's why they call it that. And so even though your spark plug's not firing, this carbon is super hot and it's igniting the air fuel that's in the cylinder, causing it to explode, which is why the engine keeps running. So even though you've shut it off. So it's not good to have all this carbon in here. That one doesn't feel like it's got a lot of ridge, but this one does. All right, this piston has got a B, a B, a C, a D. No idea what all that means. Ooh, uh-oh. So I think so far this cylinder looks the worst, not counting the pit in the casting on that other cylinder. Had some rust, wire wheeled it. It's not completely smooth, but it feels pretty decent. It's a little bit here too, looks like, but there's some scoring down here. See that line? And right here, so there's a line going this way and this way. So I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I could feel those bumps. All right, well, we're probably gonna have to take all this apart and have a look at the rings and see what's going on there. I don't know, maybe it's just, you know, wear. Like those might be the gaps of the rings. The rings are supposed to always be kind of moving around, but maybe given the mileage of the motor, maybe it just, the ring stopped rotating. And maybe that's like the ring gap or something. Kind of a liner sitting in a particular spot for just a little too long and then it puts a wear in there. I'm not sure. This one's got some of the lines too. I can't feel them, I could just see them. So this one I can feel. It's extremely light, you know. I'm rubbing my fingernail across it and I just barely feel it. There's a D, a D, a D, and a C.